The afternoon wind was sharp, slicing through the heart of the city like a cold whisper of loneliness. The sidewalks were crowded, but few looked down. Few noticed the shivering woman huddled against the concrete wall, clutching a motionless bundle wrapped in a worn grey blanket. Her face was pale, lips trembling, hair tangled and wet from the earlier rain. People passed her by like she was invisible, until a small, trembling voice broke the noise of the busy street. "Daddy! Her baby is freezing!" That cry, pure, desperate and full of fear, came from little Aria Hayes, a 7-year-old girl with bright eyes and a heart too big for her age. She tugged at her father's coat, pointing at the woman and her tiny child lying helplessly beside a grocery store dumpster. The man beside her, tall, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit, froze. Noah Hayes, CEO of one of the city's biggest tech firms, had faced boardroom crises and multi-million-dollar negotiations, but he had never faced something like this. Not this raw, fragile moment of human need. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in helping those who the world has forgotten, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Your support helps us spread stories that remind the world that compassion still exists. For a second, Noah didn't move. His chauffeur-driven car was waiting just across the street, its heater running. But something in Aria's trembling hand and the look in her eyes, that innocent plea, broke through his composure. He rushed toward the woman, dropping to his knees. "Ma'am," he said, his voice steady but urgent, "can you hear me?" The woman blinked slowly, struggling to open her eyes. Please, my baby, he's so cold." Noah's heart lurched. He gently pulled back the corner of the grey blanket and felt the baby's skin, icy, almost bluish. Without hesitation, he removed his expensive wool coat and wrapped the baby inside it, pressing the small bundle against his chest to share his warmth. Aria crouched beside the mother, holding her trembling hand. "Daddy, she's crying," Aria whispered. Noah looked into the woman's eyes full of exhaustion, fear, and a silent kind of shame. "We're taking you both to the hospital," he said firmly, "right now." He didn't care that his business meeting was minutes away. He didn't care that people were watching, whispering, or taking photos. He only cared that a young mother and her infant were fighting for their lives in a city that had forgotten them. The woman fainted before she could respond. Noah lifted her into his arms. She was lighter than he expected, fragile, her clothes soaked from the rain. Aria carried the baby, careful and determined, as they rushed into the back seat of the black car. "Hospital. Fast," Noah commanded the driver. As the car sped through the city, Noah kept glancing between the woman and her baby, afraid to lose either. He noticed the baby's weak movements, the shallow breathing. The mother's face was ghostly white, her hands bruised and thin. Aria held the baby close, whispering softly, as if her voice could keep the child alive. At the hospital, everything happened in a blur. Doctors rushing, nurses taking the baby, an oxygen mask, urgent voices. Noah stood by helplessly, his expensive shoes squeaking on the polished floor, feeling like the wealth he'd built over years meant nothing in that moment. Hours passed before the doctor finally came out, removing his gloves and offering a faint smile. "You found them just in time." The baby had early signs of hypothermia, and the mother was severely dehydrated. "A few more hours and—" His words trailed off. Noah didn't need to hear the rest. Aria squeezed her father's hand. "They're going to be okay, right, Daddy?" Noah knelt, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. "Yes, sweetheart. Because of you." Days later, Noah and Aria returned to the hospital with a small teddy bear and a blanket. When they walked into the recovery room, the young woman looked up, startled. Her name was Mara Collins, 26 years old, with hazel eyes that still held traces of fear but also gratitude. The baby, named Leo, was sleeping peacefully beside her. "I don't even know how to thank you," Mara whispered, her voice fragile. "I didn't think anyone would stop. I thought—" Her voice broke. "I thought we were going to die out there." Noah shook his head. "You don't need to thank us. Just focus on getting better. But Mara couldn't stop crying. Between sobs, she told them her story, how she had once worked as a waitress, how her husband left when she got pregnant, how she lost her apartment after missing rent, and how she'd been sleeping behind restaurants for the past week, hiding from the cold and the shame. Arya climbed onto the chair beside her bed. "You're not alone anymore," she said softly. "You have us." Those simple words from a child melted something in Noah too. He realized how much his daughter had grown since her mother passed 2 years ago. He had buried himself in work to numb the grief, but Arya's heart had stayed open. She was the light that kept him human. That night, as he tucked Arya into bed, Noah couldn't stop thinking about Mara and the baby. Their faces haunted him, not out of pity, but out of something deeper. He thought of how easily comfort turns into complacency, and how many others might be out there, unseen and unheard. The next morning, he returned to the hospital with a decision already made. When Mara saw him, she looked frightened. "Mr. Hayes, please, I can't take charity." Noah smiled gently. "This isn't charity, it's a chance." He offered her a job at his company's community outreach division, helping develop a new housing initiative for single mothers in crisis. He wanted her to bring real stories and real perspective to the project. Tears filled Mara's eyes again, but this time they were tears of hope. "I don't know if I'm strong." "Enough," she said quietly. "You already are," Noah replied. "You survived the streets. You protected your son. That takes more strength than most people ever show." Within weeks, Mara began her new role. She worked hard, learning, growing, and using her voice to help shape programs that reached struggling families across the city. Arya would visit her office after school, playing with baby Leo in a playpen beside Mara's desk. The once homeless mother now had a small apartment, a salary, and dignity, things that had seemed impossible not long ago. But perhaps the most powerful change was in Noah himself. He began to open up, to laugh again, to see life beyond numbers and deadlines. He joined Mara in her efforts, personally funding safe shelters and childcare programs. The man who once thought success was defined by profit now understood it was measured by impact. Months later, on a crisp spring afternoon, the trio stood together at the opening ceremony of a new shelter. Reporters gathered, cameras flashing. Noah didn't stand at the podium as the CEO. He stood as a father and as a man changed by compassion. Arya sat in the front row holding baby Leo, now healthy and smiling. Mara spoke to the crowd, her voice steady but emotional. "I was invisible once," she began. "People saw me and turned away. But one man and his little girl stopped. They didn't ask what I had done wrong or why I was there. They just helped. And that changed everything. If you see someone struggling, please stop. You never know whose life you might save." The audience fell silent, many wiping tears. Noah glanced down at Arya, who looked up at him and whispered proudly, "We did good, Daddy." He smiled, holding her close. "You did good, sweetheart. You saw her first." That night, after the ceremony, Noah walked along the quiet street outside the shelter. The city lights shimmered in the puddles, and a cool breeze brushed his face. For the first time in years, he felt peace, the kind that comes not from wealth or power, but from knowing you made a difference. He turned to see Mara approaching with Leo in her arms, bundled warmly in a blue blanket. "You know," she said with a soft smile, "I still remember the first thing your daughter said that day. 'Daddy, her baby is freezing.' It still echoes in my head." Noah's eyes softened. "It echoed in mine too," he said. "It changed everything." They stood there in silence for a moment, not as savior and saved, but as equals, bound by something bigger than circumstance. Arya ran up and grabbed both their hands, swinging them playfully. The three of them walked down the street together, the faint sound of laughter rising against the night sky. Because sometimes all it takes is one act of kindness to turn a story of despair into a story of hope. One small voice, one little girl's plea, can change more than one life. It can change hearts. it can change futures. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal, where we believe kindness is the most powerful force in the world. Let's remind everyone that compassion can still save lives. Before you go, comment below, what's one act of kindness you'll never forget? Because sometimes, a single moment of empathy can be the beginning of someone's miracle.